the young people. We are the hope and the strength for the future of the Commonwealth. And the best way we can prepare the young people is by giving them the deserved quality education. And that is why education is the #1 priority in the Commonwealth Youth Council. In the Commonwealth Youth Declaration, which was passed in 2013 in Sri Lanka during the last Shagun, the young people consider education as the #1 priority. So that's our priority as well as the leaders of the young people in the Commonwealth. And we are delighted about this forum, and like what the Excellency just mentioned, we need more time to discuss about issues related to education. We can even call for the whole Commonwealth Education Forum and talk about all these issues. But a day program like this may not be sufficient. All right. When we talk about education, then we have to talk about the quality and accessibility to the education. How qualitative and accessible is the education to the young people? And because education is monetized, you need money to get education, then the issue of affordability comes. How affordable is it? And this is what underpins most of the inequalities in terms of access to education. You found that the children of the rich, they have access to quality education, and the children of the poor, they do not. And therefore, access to education should not be determined by the level of your parents' income. It should be given, it should be right, irrespective of your income status. And the second inequality area is the issue of ethnicity, which we talk about, especially from the African region where I come from. I understand in some culture or in some religion, the education, especially the formal education we're talking about, may not be given priorities in some ethnic groups. So we have to also think about the inequality alongside of ethnic divisions. And when we talk about gender, this is one of the prominent areas of inequality in terms of access to education. And we are taught that educating one woman is like educating the whole society. Because women, they nurture and bring up the future leaders, the professors, the leaders, and all what you have in the society. So the first training and the first education comes from the mother. And that's what underpins the importance of women or girls' education. And then we talk about disability. Young people who are disabled, they cannot go to school because there's no provision for their needs. The education instructions are not provided to meet their peculiar circumstances. And therefore, they don't have any option just to stay back. And they eventually go on the streets to beg. And their psychology, they're feeling like they are not of the same class to the people. So they're feeling marginalized, they're feeling not belong. So we have to also change the psychology of these young people, and we have to also provide facilities for them so that they can be part and parcel of the society. And we talk about the children, and this goes back to the income status. And what Nick just mentioned earlier, we talk about two types of young people. As two types of children who are out of school. There are some who were perceived to be in the school, but they're actually out of the school. And there are those that were already out of school and they were physically perceived as already out of school. So there are no distinctions between these two classes of children. And because these children will have to worry about if they have a meal when they go to school, if they have to come back home and meet food, they are worried about that. So they have to stay back in the streets, either to walk or to do something that will fetch them a living or to get something to eat. And that's why they cannot go to school. The mother will say, you cannot go to school because we have nothing to eat. So you have to wait at home, go for hawking, or do small business or child labor and get money for the house. So the children are now used as a labor tool, or as a tool for earning a living in the family. And this all underpins or goes back to the issue of income status and the issue of monetizing the education. And when we talk about location, children that are in urban areas, they are more likely to be educated than those that are in rural areas. And even the teachers themselves, they prefer to teach in urban areas than in rural areas, because there is no equality in terms of provisions between the locations, rural and urban areas. So there should be a fair proportion of social amenities and accessibilities within locations. And the problem of education, or lack of it, will lead to educational outcomes are not absolutely dependent on income of the country, but this is at country level. At individual levels, income determines what sort of education you get. But at national level, research found out it's not absolutely related, because poor nations can sometimes perform well in terms of access to education. For example, the government spending on education is not correlated. How much you spend in education and how much quality education you have in your country is not always positively related. For example, Tonga is a Commonwealth country, has achieved absolute youth literacy while spending less compared to what the United Kingdom spend for education per capita. So you can actually spend less and get better education. So what underlines, or what information we get here is the size of a country, the income of a country, the location of a country, and the history of that country do not dictate or determine what sort of education a student gets. And this comes to the reasons for why this disparity is. Number one, policy and the compliance. What sort of educational policy you have and to what extent is implemented. And now we have to talk about teacher quality, how qualitative are teachers. And then when we have to tackle education issues, we have to talk about poverty in education, or alleviating poverty, because poverty is a major obstacle to education. About mode of communication, because when you talk to a child in a different language that he doesn't understand, so there's no communication. So education about communication. So the use of mother tongue, especially at primary and secondary school level, is very essential to quality education. And then the skills-based education. Education should not be just knowledge passage, but it should prepare young people to have skills so that they can be on their own, they can set up businesses, they can do a lot of things from schools. They can learn a lot of skills from the schools. And we need to have what we call educational development index. Sorry, I have a lot to do. I'm looking at my time. And then remuneration is very important because teachers at primary and secondary school get less remunerations, less salary. And while teachers at universities and higher institutions, they get more salary. While to me, I think teachers at primary and secondary school, they should get more salary so that we can attract best and qualitative teachers in our foundation levels. I have so many things to talk about, but I have to respect time. Thank you so much.